So Google is phasing out third-party cookies, and at the part of its privacy sandbox initiative, it started rolling out, you know, the removal of third-party cookies to about 1% of its users. Now, while it's not impacting everyone right now, the fact is that third-party cookies are coming to an end. Before I get into more detail, we need to understand what third-party cookies are. So what happens is that when you or I visit a website, they place a cookie in our browser cache, and they track our behavior in terms of which websites we're visiting, sometimes in terms of what behavior is taking place on various sites. If you're on a site where the cookie has been placed, it might track, let's say, where you have clicked, what you have. There are also heat maps in some cases, not related to third-party cookies, but there's a vast amount of tracking that happens on browsers because of these cookies. It's in a sense you're leaving breadcrumbs wherever you're going so that you can be found or you can be tracked and your behavior can be tracked. Now, why does this tracking exist? This tracking enables advertisers to personalize their advertising to you, either on the basis of your profiling, as in, let's say, what age, gender, content preferences, behaviors you exhibit. And then also in terms of, let's say, what you may have clicked on. So if you go onto an e-commerce site and you view a product, that gets noted by some cookies, and then they will retarget advertising to you across the web and sometimes across devices as well. Now, we have cookies and we have this kind of targeting, which is frankly privacy violating at such a granular level because, there's an old advertising saying that I know that 50% of my ad dollars are going waste. The problem is I don't know which 50%. So historically, advertisers used to did not know the effective outcome of their advertising, and what the internet enabled through cookies and other mechanisms is more predictability, and therefore for advertisers more bang for their buck. Less of their ad money was wasted as targeting kept improving, looking not just as demographic but also psychographic profiles, behavior patterns, and intent assessment. And in fact, in some performance-based advertising, it even leads to a full, it's when you purchase something that basically that the advertiser pays money to a publisher, in a sense. So this is a fairly common situation, and it's this kind of profiling that's really led to the feeling of privacy violation. It is a privacy violation if your behavior is being tracked all the time. Um, and so, privacy regulations across the world have tried to address behavioral targeting and profiling and things like that. Now, there is also some amount of competition between platforms, between Apple and Google, and Apple was the first to try and clamp down on usage of third-party cookies, and now Google's rolling it out. So, the kind of advertising that gets impacted are retargeting, in which an ad follows you across the globe, across the web. The other is programmatic advertising, in which the advertiser actually drops a cookie and builds a profile on an individual and does audience and behavioral profiling to target them. Cross-device targeting gets impacted. Cross-website targeting gets impacted. And most importantly for advertisers, the measurement of the performance of an ad, which gives them feedback in terms of either changing or improving the ad, all of that gets impacted. And attribution, as in where has the transaction taken place or what led to that transaction taking place, which also impacts payouts for advertisers to publishers. Now, most Indian advertisers rely on performance-based advertising. There's very little brand advertising that happens. So advertising is going to get impacted in the longer run. And back in 2011-12, there was a move where you moved from demand side from supply side advertising, which was, let's say, a publisher like MediaNama would serve advertising and essentially do profiling, which can be used to target users, to demand side, where the advertiser themselves was basically building the profile of the individual and targeting them. And that led to actually more and more profiling, and especially cross-device targeting, where you might see something on the web, but you get targeted for it offline, and it's like the users feel kind of violated that they're going to a shopping site, it's following that ad for that is following them across the web. So we are entering a new age of advertising in a sense where I think what's going to happen is that most players are going to rely on like one, audience targeting is going to become more and more difficult. It is going to become less accurate. Your funds are going to be less effective in terms of if you're an advertiser. You'll have to rely on first party data collection, which is that different advertising or publishers may actually come in and start pooling audience data, um, or building a separate sort of audience that can help advertisers target. You're going to move more to supply side, is my guess, supply side advertising. And then, it's going to be more first party data in use in order to understand user behavior and preferences. Um, so, one important thing that might also make a comeback is more contextual advertising. That you more brand advertising comes in. You target a user on a publisher's website because of the nature of the website, rather than target a user across the web because of the behavior of the user. So some of these changes are going to take place. It's not going to be an easy transition, but just like data protection norms came in and disrupted the advertising ecosystem, this is also going to kind of disrupt the advertising ecosystem. I think the first party data collection would also take place with players like Facebook and Google. And so it'll actually lead to more concentration of advertising on their platforms alone, but not necessarily across the web. So it will make platforms more powerful. Apple, I remember, was also rolling out its own third party advertising, like its own advertising platform to target Apple users, because they have access to a vast amount of data, which is first party data. So it'll be interesting to watch how this plays out. I think the rollout is taking place slowly from Google, but we might see towards the latter half of the year the rollout being completed across users on Chrome. um, and then the world of advertising will have to find new mechanisms and more privacy protecting mechanisms to operate. So interesting times in advertising going forward.